I talk to franchisors all the time that don't know where they really want to go. Are they planning on running until they die? Do they want their kids to take over? Are they looking for an exit at some point? It's surprising to me how many simply just don't know where they're headed and they're just focusing on growth. Now, if you're thinking about franchising your business, you need to be clear on where you're going. Today, I'm going to talk about one shift that completely changes how this can play out. A lot of people miss it in the beginning because the natural way to think about franchising is, how do I sell more locations? How do I get more people to buy in? How do I grow the footprint? And on the surface, that makes sense, but that's not actually where the value is created. The real opportunity is building something that scales beyond you, where you're not just operating more locations, you're building the brand, the systems, and the revenue streams that come from those locations. You're building something very valuable that at one point can become part of something bigger, part of a franchise platform portfolio. And that's a very different game. I'm Justin Kaiser, CEO of Empire Franchising, and I've spent the last 25 years building, scaling, and investing in businesses. I took my own franchise brand from 0 to over 100 franchise territories before an exit. And what I've seen over and over again in franchising is that the outcome you get is directly tied to how you approach it from the beginning. There's really only two paths. The first path is what most people do. They take a successful business, they decide to franchise it, and they start focusing on selling franchises. They put together a basic FDD. They try to get a few deals done. Maybe they join a broker network or bring on a franchise consultant, and they start pushing for growth. But what often happens is everything still revolves around them. The systems aren't fully built out. Their positioning isn't clear. The sales process isn't dialed in. So their growth becomes inconsistent. And instead of creating leverage, they create complexity. They may end up with a few franchisees, but a lot more responsibility and not nearly the level of scalability that they expected. Then there's the second path where you step back. You treat franchising like building an asset, not just expanding your operations. And that starts asking a very different set of questions, such as, how do I turn what I built into something that can be replicated, supported, and scaled without me being in the middle of everything? Because when you approach it that way, everything changes. You're now focused on building systems. You're focused on positioning. You're focused on creating long-term value. That's exactly what creates leverage. Think about it. If every new location depends on you, your time, your decision-making, your involvement, then you haven't really scaled. You've just spread yourself thinner. But when the business is structured the right way, when the systems are clear, when the model works for someone else, when there's a real engine that's driving growth, that's when it starts to compound. And that's where franchising becomes very powerful. Because now you're not just making money from your own locations, you're generating revenue through franchise fees and ongoing royalties. And as that network grows, the value of the entire system behind it grows with it. This is also where people underestimate what it takes. Building a franchisor isn't the same as running a business. It's a very different skill set. It's a different structure, and it requires a level of leadership that most people don't realize when they go into it. You need a real system, something that can be followed and repeated. You need infrastructure to support franchisees as they come in. You need a way to generate consistent franchise sales, which is where a lot of brands struggle. They might have a great business. They might have a great concept, even a strong brand, but they don't have a predictable way to bring in the right franchisees and convert them. So they grow inconsistently, or worse, not at all. I talk to franchisors all the time that are struggling with this. In fact, one just yesterday told me that he gets a lot of people thinking that they're applying for a job. Their ads aren't even targeting the right audience. And this is one of the reasons why we built Empire Franchising the way that we did. We're not here to just help you franchise. We partner with brands to build the system, install the infrastructure, and put a real growth engine behind it so the franchising actually works the way it's supposed to. so you can get in front of the proper audience of people who actually have the money to buy and run a franchise. Now, when all those pieces are in place, that's when you move from just owning a business to building a scalable asset, something that grows beyond you, something that creates leverage, and something that has real enterprise value. That's the shift. It's not about how many locations you can sell. It's about what you're actually building to support those locations, because that's what determines whether this stays something small or something that really scales. So if you're at the point where you're thinking about franchising your business or even just exploring it, the first thing that I look at is this. Are you approaching this in a way to expand or as a way to build an asset that can one day become part of something bigger? Because that decision right there is what's going to shape everything that comes after it. Now, if you want to see what that might actually look like for your business, how it can be structured, whether it makes sense to move forward, then go to empirefranchising.com and schedule a strategy session. If you've built something great, we'd love to explore working with you and possibly turning it into one of America's next franchise empires.